Hello everybody and welcome to the Last Word on Tennis podcast. The tennis in Australia is done for another year, unless of course you're following the ATP Challenger Launceston, and I bet Damian is. We'll speak to him about that in a second because he's on the pod this week. He wasn't meant to be, he was a late substitution for technical issues, but of course he was ready to come and join us for a chat. We've also got Jim Smith back. Hi Jim.
Hi, good to be here.
And have you been enjoying the tennis down under? Have you recovered from sleep deprivation?
Just about, yep. Had a strong coffee earlier today, ready to go now.
And I've got an interesting question for you. We've had some controversy this week, both Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic in the later stage of the tournament becoming foul of the shot clock, which is a 25-second clock that the umpire can start. And they have to make sure they serve in that time. What I want you to tell me is, what else do you think in life requires a 25-second clock?
VAR. If they could just make all VAR decisions inside 25 to 30 seconds, be a much better system. I'd rather they do that and get the decision wrong than spend half an hour coming to, constantly replaying the same footage over and over again. I think everyone watching at home, when you're watching the football, can work out pretty quickly what is and isn't the decision. So if they could just limit that to 25 seconds, I think it would be a great system.
Yeah, that's a good answer. That's better. That's better than what I would have thought of. I'll give Damian a shot with this, but obviously it was a last-minute introduction to the pod, and he's only literally had 5 minutes to prepare. So, can you think of anything that might require a 25-second shot clock, Damian?
Well, the only thing I kind of thought about was maybe for me, I would like to have a shot clock when I'm getting out of bed in the morning, because, for example, today I had an exam and the alarm rang, and I just, I didn't get out in the 25-second window, so I just, overslept a bit. And that happens to me a lot, so I would need that. And some
you need
kind
a full
of penalty,
umpire team to get you out of bed, obviously.
Warning if I don't, yeah.
All right, that's good. Yeah, I think a lot of people could empathise with that answer. Right, so I've got a quiz for you guys as well, again. All you guys at home as well. We've had Sofia Kenin winning no spoilers there, obviously. No, Sofia Kenin winning the Women's Australian Open title at the age of 21, which actually, I was thinking, she's young, but looking down the list of Grand Slam champions and their ages when they've won the first one, that actually doesn't make her that young. But I want you guys to tell me who are the 10 youngest first-time Grand Slam champions. This is across men and women. And I'll give you a bit of a clue. None of them were aged over 17 when they first won their first Grand Slam. So we're looking for the youngest 10 first-time Grand Slam winners. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yep. Brilliant. So that's across men and women as well. And we'll get to the answers after we've discussed everything that happened in Australia. And also we're going to look ahead to the rest of the season, see what clues we saw in Australia that might give us some hints as to what happens in the remaining Grand Slams or in the other big tournaments of the year. What we maybe can see this week, because there's tennis straight after the Australian Open, with tennis in all over the world, really. One tournament in India, one in France, and one in Argentina. So we'll see if the lads have got any kind of predictions and good shouts that maybe you can have a look at for those tournaments. But first of all, we'll relive what happened in Australia over the last 2 weeks. We'll start with the women's tournament. The women's final was settled on Saturday between Sofia Kenin and Garbiñe Muguruza. And it was a victory for the American. She turned it around. She lost the first set 6-4 and then really stepped up a gear, or maybe Muguruza stepped off the gas a little bit, and she turned it around for a 6-2, 6-2 in sets 2 and 3. So a maiden title for Sofia Kenin, Jim. And how did she manage to turn the match around from losing that first set to dominate the second two?
I think it was partly Muguruza, maybe not obviously intentionally, but her level did seem to me to dip a little bit. But I thought as well, Sofia Kenin, her biggest strength really isn't, it's not one shot that she has. It's more the way she understands how to play a tennis match. She's got a great tactical brain. I thought she started serving better. That was really crucial. She was returning better as well. And she used her slice backhand, I thought particularly well. I saw a lot less sort of linear shots from Muguruza, which I always think is her biggest weapon, when she can take her backhand or forehand down the line. She's very dangerous. If you keep the ball low, it's harder for her to do that. So I think that was one thing that Sofia Kenin did really well.
And, I'll just run through some of the stats here. She only had 2 aces, Kenin, compared to Muguruza's 9, but Muguruza had 8 double faults, so that kind of negated that advantage for her. Muguruza really struggled on the second serve, only winning 31% of the points on the second serve, whereas Kenin actually won a higher percentage of the points on the second serve than she did on her first. So that's probably a key area where the game was won and lost. Also on break points, Muguruza actually created 12 break points as opposed to Kenin only creating 6, but Kenin took 5 out of the 6, whereas Muguruza only took 2 out of the 12. So do you think, Damian, that Muguruza will look back on those kind of breakpoint opportunities as the area where she just didn't manage to get through Kenin there?
Definitely, there was that game at 2-2, I think, in the third,
Yeah.
where Muguruza had 40 love on Kenin's serve. Kenin later said that it was the best game she played. The 5 points were the best tennis she ever played in her life, and obviously she did very well there. But that's definitely something Muguruza will is probably now thinking about sitting at her home and wishing she won that slam. Definitely the second serve too. We know how aggressive Muguruza can be on second serve return. We didn't quite see it go successfully in that match. She definitely stepped off the gas a little bit in the second and third sets. But I think that one moment, that 40 love at 2-2 is where she really should have stepped it up. There were a couple of very long rallies where she had a couple of opportunities to attack, and she just allowed Kenin to move her around and finally finish the points on her own terms.
Yeah, she didn't win another game, of course, after that 2-2 kind of point there. And obviously it was a final that nobody really predicted or expected, Jim. What do you see as the kind of the future for both Kenin and Muguruza? They both come through the draws really well, and Muguruza, a lot of people were surprised that she managed to find that level again after she's not been in contention for Grand Slam since 2017, I think.
Well, I think with Kenin, I certainly, and I think a lot of people were confident that she was going to win a major. It's just that not many people expected her to win this major. So I think the path for Kenin is pretty much unchanged. She's just maybe slightly further along it than we thought she was going to be. So I'm sure there'll be lots of success to come for her. It wouldn't be a surprise at least if her form took a little dip now. That seems to often be the case for a player just after they've won their first major title, especially on the women's tour, but on both tours as well. And as for Muguruza, it seems actually quite in keeping with her career, where she'll put together a deep run at a major pretty much out of nowhere. And then I remember when she won Wimbledon, she was coming off an awful season. She'd just fallen outside the top 10 after losing in the 4th round, trying to defend her French Open title. So I think there will probably, there's a good chance with the women's tour as open as it is for Muguruza to win more major titles, but it's the consistency that I think is going to continue to be a problem for her. So I think there'll be successes, but there'll also be quite a few disappointments for her.
So likely to kind of be bouncing around the top echelon of the game rather than establishing herself kind of in the top 5, you think?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if she has a top 5 ranking at points, but I don't think she's going to be a steady member of the top 5.
Damian, we had a podcast last week where we kind of took the predictions for the final stages of the Women's Australian Open, and we all predicted, I think me, you and Gavin predicted a Barty-Halep final. Kind of what went wrong there for the two favourites in the semi-finals, do you think?
Well, not much really. I mean, both the semis were as tight as it gets. Barty had, I think, 2 set points in the opening set and then led 5-3 in the second. I think also had 2 set points. And Halep also led 5-3 in the second and had like 4 set points in the first. So, just nail biters. Ash Barty probably, I don't think the crowd, being a star in her home country, like being expected to win against a lower ranked player than her, I don't think it helped her. We saw her a little bit tight in the high pressure moments. Muguruza Halep was just a great contrast of styles where Muguruza just stayed on the offensive. Halep tried her best. I mean, it was just a 50-50 match, and the same pretty much for Barty Kenin. It could have gone both ways. It's really just a matter of some luck and some great plays, great defended set points that all these matches went in straight sets.
Yeah, it's a quirk of the tennis scoring system, isn't it? That it can be such a close match, and yet when you see straight sets, you think, well, it must be a domination from one or the other. But it really was those key points at the end, and they can be settled by an unforced error, by an amazing shot by your opponent, and it can go either way. So I don't think that either Barty nor Halep will leave the tournament thinking that they will probably think they've let an opportunity slip, but they won't be disappointed with their form necessarily coming out of that tournament. Possibly unlike some of the people that lost earlier in the tournament, Jim. We lost Serena quite early on. We lost Naomi Osaka early on. We lost Caroline Wozniacki in her last ever tournament. But what do you think about those players that went out early and how that might affect them?
Actually, I think if there's one player who's going to be really disappointed by how their Australian Open went, it's probably got to be Karolina Pliskova. I thought, she's in excellent form coming into the tournament. Never won a major. This is like a great chance for her to get across the line. She's gone deep in Australia before. I think she made the semi-finals last year, and then it wasn't to be. She lost narrowly. So I think that was in the third round. That was one player for whom it was particularly disappointing to lose in 2 tie breaks. Yeah. So particularly disappointing. So that third round defeat was obviously surely really disappointing, and it'll be tough maybe for her to recover from that in the coming months. As for Naomi Osaka, clearly defending titles is something of a problem for her. That match against Goff was not one she should have lost, really. Goff's a great player, but she's a long way further back on the development curve than Osaka, who's I think 5 years older than her, and just the unforced errors that cost her. The Williams match is almost beyond explaining. I think she beat Wang for the last 1 game at the US Open, and then she just couldn't get going at the Australian Open, and it does make you wonder, all of these defeats, whether it be in finals or fourth rounds, whether Serena Williams does have it in her to win that 24th major. I think maybe the pressure of it seems perhaps to be slightly getting on top of her.
Is it the pressure, or is it the fact that she's no longer the best?
I think it's probably a combination of those two facts. I think it's probably a stronger era than when she was winning a lot of her majors. There's a lot more players who can go toe to toe with her from the baseline, match her power without making errors. But I also think at the crucial moments, perhaps the pressure of what she wants to do is maybe proving too much for her.
Do you agree with that, Damian? I know. I think me, you, and Jack have talked about this before. That we do think she's good. Well, you guys think she's going to get there. I don't actually think she will now get to 24. But do you think the women's tournaments are still open enough for her still to do it, regardless of whether she's actually the best or not?
They are pretty open. I think she's going to struggle with players like Kenin, for example. She lost to her last year at Roland Garros. Well, that's not her best surface, but anyway, she's going to struggle with counterpunches that are so good as she struggled with Halep, Kerber, and many others in the past couple of years. But I definitely think she has a chance at Wimbledon, at the US Open. As we said, the slams are very open. I've seen a lot of people after the Australian Open final saying that even if you named 30 players that can win Roland Garros, you're still, there's a pretty good chance you're gonna miss, because you really don't know what's gonna happen there. Everyone can get a bit of a run. No one would predict Muguruza really to be in the final here, even if her beginning of the year was pretty decent. So I obviously see a lot of chance for Serena to still do it, but it's gonna be hard, definitely.
Right, I'm just going to rattle off some names here, guys, and I want a yes/no as to whether they will ever win a Grand Slam. So these are all female players who have been in around the top of the game for a little while, but haven't yet won one. So Karolina Pliskova, we'll go with Jim and then Damian. So yes/no answers. Karolina Pliskova.
Yes.
I want to say yes, but there